views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hey, guess what? Guess what? It is our first Bronx Buzz of the new year, and so we'll say Happy New Year to you. Hope you have a great year, a peaceful and a happy and healthy one with you and your family. But we've got business to do here at BronxNet Television. We're in our Mercy College studio in the East Bronx. This evening, we've got two really good guests. We always have good guests. One of whom is a photographer, the other is an editor of one of the local Bronx papers. And we're going to welcome back right now Julius Constantine Motal. Nice to have you with us, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Julius takes the pictures, many of the pictures, all of them? Most of them, for this newspaper, the well-known award-winning Riverdale Press. And in fact, the cover photo right there is one of his pictures. How are you? Happy New Year.
I'm good. Happy New Year to you, too.
Busy through the holiday season, photographer's work never done. Give us a little bit of what you've been up
to. Picking up the pace coming into the new year. We had kind of a slow news season over the holidays because things move slower over the holidays.
Of course.
But now that we're past that over the hump, we're looking to pick up the speed again.
In previous interviews we've done here, and you and I were just talking about it beforehand, I identified very clearly that you are also, in addition to a photographer, you're also a writer and have written stories. But then you related that you are doing mostly arts or culture. Just talk to me about what you've been writing about. And, you know, we always want to get personal about it. How do you feel about doing that work? Do you like it? Let it out.
Yeah.
I'm the psychiatrist today. Tell me what you think.
No, I mean, outside of taking pictures, one of the things that I enjoy the most is writing about photography.
Writing about photography? Or photographers?
Photographers, the work they do, what motivates them. So I've had the good fortune this past year to write a number of features about different exhibitions across different galleries, Bronx Documentary Center, Daniel Cooney Fine Art, about photographers who have done some really important work.
Have you found, like I have found over the years, and like I know, we have some amazing photographers in the Bronx. And,
definitely
and
in the Bronx.
They have vision, and they're able to communicate that.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a lot of good photographers in the Bronx, New York City more broadly, for sure. And some good spaces in the Bronx that are making space for photography. I think most notably the Bronx Documentary Center.
Certainly, there's no question, and they have a teaching program and all that kind of stuff. Is one of the reasons you like that because you pick up stuff, you kind of learn stuff, or you see through somebody else's eyes?
I mean, for sure, it's all about sort of like accumulating experience and insight, and if I can get some of that vicariously through talking to somebody about what was the experience of the moment wherever they were, for sure, it's as instructive for me as it is, I hope, for the readers.
Do you ever break away from the news photo thing? I mean, you, like, for example, again, I'm going to hold it up. You know, I was talking to Julius, like, maybe I'll take pictures sometimes, but I can't capture something that has movement and tells a story. Do you break away from the news photography at all, or is that really like your passion?
It's, I mean, it's my Monday to Friday for sure.
There's a value to that, let's be clear.
Outside of that, I photograph a lot of weddings.
Oh, you do?
I do,
Well, I'm married already, but we'll keep that in mind, actually.
And also personal documentary projects. I have one ongoing on cat culture in New York City. Cat parties, cat fashion shows, that kind of thing.
Wow, and you keep yourself busy. I've asked many photographers that we've interviewed on this show and other shows about it, and we're going to show his pictures, of course. You can see some great stuff. Digital photography is a mixed blessing. You can take as many pictures as you want. You know, you can play with them without having to use the chemicals in the dark room. But other photographers say something is lost. Are you one of those who embraces the new technology? Or are you hesitant? Or you'd say, gee whiz, I wish we were just using film?
No, I think ultimately what matters is it a good picture? I mean, method matters less for me. I've seen amazing smartphone pictures. I've seen amazing film pictures. I've seen amazing pictures taken with old point-and-shoot cameras from like the late 90s.
Right.
So I think intent matters, like in terms of why you're using whatever method you're using to take the picture. But ultimately, I'm interested in looking at good pictures.
The results are all that matter.
Results, I mean, ultimately, I mean, if you have a good
Doesn't
reason,
matter how you get there.
if you have a good reason for why you're using what you're using, fantastic. But as long as you get the picture.
Last thing before we get to the photos,
Sure.
You are particular about your equipment? I mean, what do you use
I
generally?
use Canon mainly for work and for my personal stuff.
Is there a reason?
Not necessarily. I mean, it's good and it gets the job done.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so we're going to look at stuff.
Sure.
Roll the dice, roll the drums, do whatever we got to do. Let's see, what do we got? This is the latest. Oh, and I saw this earlier. This is Alessandra Biaggi,
Yes.
obviously. Where was that?
This was at the Bronx Ale House the night of her primary election win, September 13th.
I'm going to express what is among the things that are wonderful about it. Not only are people like Oliver Capel there, you have the Speaker of the City Council is there. Her look of surprise, you captured it.
She had climbed in through, the windows were open out the front of the Bronx Ale House and to like get in because it was mobbed. She climbed over and was like working her way up to where the podium was, and so she just kind of, it looked like she was having this moment of like,
Yeah, I did, but also the surprise and
Yeah.
I guess the elation is great. It's a tremendous, tremendous photo. And again, for those of us who were there or may have been there or could have been there, capturing that moment, that's what makes great photography. All right, next. What do we got? Something good?
I hope.
Oh, now this. We don't get as much snowfall as we used to. This is, of course, the Tibbet Diner. What do we like?
So this was the surprise snowstorm that
That slowed up traffic.
that slowed up traffic.
Took Gary 6 hours to get across the Bronx.
Slowed it to a trickle. So this was a weather feature, which was, I mean, it had inherent difficulties just getting around. But I was just looking for spots that might have been good. And as I walked across the Tibbet Diner, it seemed like a moment of like warmth and serenity and sort of.
Well,
like
so it communicates that warmth. You do have the person right at the doorstep. The fact that the diner is like a beacon of maybe the warmth in there. What I'm curious about, because frankly, as an amateur photographer, I wrestle with it all the time, is taking a nighttime photo. Use the flash, not use the flash, play with your aperture. How do you do it so that you get a nice balanced photo like that? Or do you then post-produce it, so to speak, afterwards?
I mean, it's a little bit of post-production, but also with some of the higher-end cameras, they're better able to take pictures at night. So I wasn't using flash in this. I was working off the surrounding ambient light and the light coming off of the diner.
Of the diner.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Makes me want to put my jacket on. Go ahead. Next.
So this, the woman in the middle is the wife of the Japanese Prime Minister.
Right, and that was Caroline Kennedy.
That's Caroline Kennedy on
To
the
the
left there.
left.
This happened during the UN General Assembly. Obviously, Shinzo Abe, the Japanese Prime Minister, was in town, and his wife made a visit to the Marble Hill School for International Studies, because apparently, much to my surprise, they have a pretty robust Japanese language program. And so the Japanese First Lady was taking a tour of the school, essentially, and conversing with students in Japanese.
What do you like about this?
Just sort of, it's not strictly speaking, something you'd expect for like a Japanese dignitary to be.
Right in there, and also, of course, one of the great
you got
Americans.
Like two political dynasties, the Kennedys and the Abes together in one photo.
Right. All right, keep it going. Let her rip, baby. Oh.
So
this is what a lovely photo this is. She almost looks like she's one of the pumpkins in the middle.
Yeah. So this was from the giant pumpkin festival at the New York Botanical Garden.
Oh, I was thinking maybe Wave Hill. But
No. Yeah, this was the Botanical Garden. So I was just sort of going around taking pictures, and I'd gone to the bathroom, and I came out, and I just saw this little Japanese girl just standing, just sort of staring as her mom was out of the frame, sort of taking her own picture. But I saw her juxtapose, like the pumpkin's taller than her.
It's as if she is part of the exhibit. They tell me there's only one more minute. That can't be. Let's do one more of these. I'm going to extend this segment a little longer because you have those other photos that we want to show too.
I think
let's do one more of these, and then, all right. Oh, so this is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Yeah.
In a similar situation that Alessandra was in?
Yes. Well, no, this is the night of Biaggi's win.
Oh.
She had shown up.
So this is also at the Bronx Ale House?
Yes, yeah. Same night, she had shown up. And
so put the congressional candidate on the bar, have her stand on the bar?
She was given sort of a rousing sort of speech.
Right.
I mean, the crowd was already going.
Oh, I see. There's a Biaggi.
When you see
all right. I wanted just because there was a different type of photo in the
I don't know if it's in here.
We have them. I want those black and white things. Let's show them. Oh, this was the last one of this.
Right. This was from sort of a workshop the MTA was holding.
On buses.
On buses, yeah.
Right.
And it's not something you'd expect something strictly, so visual to happen. But
Gary's going to give it a caption. Everybody wants a hand in it. All right, now can we show that black and white there? This is what I wanted. Look at this picture. I saw this earlier. What is going on here?
So this is from about 3 years ago now in Greece during the European refugee crisis in 2016. I had made several reporting trips to a refugee camp in Idomeni in the north, and this was sort of overnight after the chaos of the day, and this guy was looking out from his tent.
Wow. Tremendous. All right, can we do one more photo? They're wrapping me up. I'm going to push the envelope. One more photo. I guess similar situation?
Similar. Well, what had happened here was, if you can see here, there's a guy that's being carried. He had been,
yes.
He had been injured.
In the center of that picture. It's funny you could miss it, but that's, quite
So he had been injured on the other side of the border, and he's being carried to a medical tent right there in the background.
Talk about a contemporary. Julius, there's never enough time. There are so many pictures, and you're such a great photographer and a great addition to our journalism community in the Bronx. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
You're going to come back at some point, bring more photos,
Let
keep
me know
taking
when.
them. All right. One day you'll take a picture of Gary and we'll say, hey, that was the host of that show. Anyway, a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Julius Constantine Motal from the Riverdale Press and from the world. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. David Cruz from the Norwood News is here. Don't go away.
Sure, I look cute now, but when my owner lost his job, it was rough. I was living on the street, and one night, me and this Cocker Spaniel got into it so bad, I wound up looking like an ice cream cone. I cried a little bit, but thankfully I got rescued, so I'm running, I'm jumping, all back to my old self. And I'm ready to give unconditional love, even if you put a lampshade on my head.
It's not always easy being a dad.
Do you have panda asthma too? Does that run in the family? This is the home of the most priceless kung fu artifacts.
But when you make an effort,
Dad, we're not supposed to touch anything. Oh, sorry. Go long, son.
it's always worth it.
Whoa, master!
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
I am gonna get you. I'm gonna get you.
Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov to learn more.
You know what, guys? There's a lot of tree branches and dry brush over here. We should probably move the bonfire over there.
I'm guessing Smokey liked that idea.
Hey, it's Ava, and this is Tess from Vivo's Do-It-Yourselfie, where we recreate the hottest looks from today's biggest music videos.
After cleaning out our closet, we have a lot of clothes we don't wear anymore.
Like this old t-shirt.
It's not garbage, it's actually a brand new rug.
And to make it, all you need to do is cut, tie, and glue.
Cut the t-shirt into strips.
Tie the strips into knots.
And glue the knots to the bath mat. I love it. Give your garbage another life.
And recycle.
Oh, we're back. I'm sitting here looking at the Norwood News and the cover of the year, I guess year-end, year-beginning edition. And David was telling me a story. Hi, David Cruz, editor of the Norwood News. Listen, David's a great guest. We love having him on the show. Thank you for joining us once
Thanks,
again.
Gary.
Are they going? There you are. I'm going to put him on camera. So you were just telling me. So here's this cover of the Norwood News that they put all like a bunch of editions, and you just started to tell me how you do it. So what is this?
Well, we usually just have all the 25 editions of the paper sort of spread out.
One every 2 weeks.
Right, one every 2 weeks, and we have them all spread out, and we'll just end up picking what we think are the most memorable. And so here you have what we thought were some of the more memorable stories within the year 2018, and you know, we actually mentioned most of these stories within the actual story of our year in review.
And didn't we also have a big anniversary of the Norwood News?
That's right, and we did mention that too in the year in
But
review.
it's not, that would be number one, 25th, right? 30th anniversary of the Norwood News. Do you have a favorite either cover or a favorite story that either you did or that the paper did, or the most significant one?
I think our coverage of the Trinitarios, the fallout,
gang.
right? The fallout from the incident involving Alessandro Jr. Guzman Feliz was a pretty big endeavor, just because we had basically 4 or 5 reporters on that story, and so we looked at the broader picture here. Just beyond like what was happening within the incident.
And I know, Dave, you're a serious journalist and you believe in journalism and everything. Right. That was probably as good an example of journalism as
I probably would say so.
You could do, aside from all the other stuff. You know, as you know, I was at the 30th anniversary and made note of a couple of stories that I thought historically that the Norwood News did. And I've got, there are a number, the two in my mind were when Jordan Moss, one of your predecessors, investigated the building of PS20, and they found that the thing was being built all cockamamie. Right. And then the other was their long-standing tracking of the Kingsbridge Armory, right, which of course still hasn't been. So anyway, congrats on that issue. What do you got here? What do you want to talk about?
Well,
one other thing before you even talk about news, you have good young writers. I mean, in this case, Martika Ornella, of course, Joe Koenig, who's been on the show. I mean, you really do a great job developing young people. It's great.
Well, that's very nice to hear. And yeah, just circling back to Martika, she wrote this page 3 story, which I thought interesting in terms of just the internal governance, how sort of the city works when it comes to Pee Wee football teams. And so here you have a Norwood Pee Wee football club that practices routinely at a designated park. Turns out there was some internal squabbling, and now this Pee Wee club has been booted from the park, and the permit holder, who was once affiliated with that
with the football team,
with that team, is now he's now joined up with another team from Harlem who's going to be practicing in the Bronx.
So I'm trying to determine, based on what you said, I haven't read the story. Is it a good news, bad news story? I mean,
well, in the sense that there's a winner and a loser here, and the loser is really this team, because they have no choice. They're sort of at the mercy of this permit holder who decided to just go and veer off with another team.
To me, look, my attitude is disgraceful, but that's just
Oh,
Gary
and
saying what he says.
we did write this editorial. Good luck to Albany's freshman class.
Yes.
I mean, you have this progressive wing that's now coming to Albany, and now they're all promising progressive legislation, and here we are. Hopefully their idealism won't be cracked by reality.
Dave, you also were there as the borough president railed against, what an ironic word to use, railed against Amtrak for not getting on board with the Metro North expansion in the Bronx. And allegedly they can't get those, the tracks useful for Metro North because Amtrak owns them. A lot of people have heard about it. What's your point of view about this, and what was it like being there on that day?
Well, it's a couple of things. I think the meeting or the news conference served as twofold. Obviously, to get Amtrak on board in terms of like handling their negotiations with Metro North. It looks like they've essentially stalled. They were supposed to start in April. It hasn't started, and Diaz is essentially just trying to pressure them to actually get this going. And the one thing I thought that was sort of underlying was the fact that he is running for mayor, and he needs something tangible to show to folks outside of the Bronx, I'm a can-do legislator or a can-do leader. And so he needs Amtrak just as much as he needs the Kingsbridge Armory to elevate him in terms of being a qualified leader.
It is not in your paper, but I saw that, I think I got a press release just today, that he is also putting out social media about NYCHA, a place for people to make complaints about NYCHA. Boy, oh boy, you better have a lot of space in your blog, because there are complaints everywhere.
Correct.
And I think, in a way, it's an effective tool to show how desperate the situation.
I mean, he's essentially capitalizing on a really bad, pervasive issue happening across all of New York City. So he could very well be the leader in terms of wanting to affect change.
Well, now I've closed the paper because I want to talk about the future. Let's start with Albany. You follow Bronx politics and New York politics very closely. I guess the question is, will Governor Cuomo be forced to move left based on the fact that Andrew Stewart Cousins is a leader in the Senate and Carl Hastie is a leader in the Assembly, of course, and of course now that there are, the IDC is out, there appears to be a left-wing slant. Do you think the governor is going to play ball with them, or do you think he's still going to end up being, his own guy, so to speak?
He says he's not going to run for president in 2020.
I agree with that. I don't think he will.
But he may very well be a running mate. And so he may very well be president, it could very well be Vice President Joe Biden running on the Democratic ticket. He'll need a progressive legislator as he possibly can, so he needs Cuomo. And of course, Cuomo would need to build his resume as a progressive leader.
Well,
and anything that's anti-Trump.
Yes, well, he's clearly laid it out as far as immigration. And so if Trump has cast himself, obviously, as, for what he's done with immigration, Cuomo has clearly made it that his state is going to be, so even if he is not, so to speak, left-wing on those other issues.
He's leaving his own personal politics aside, knowing that the country is essentially, it's divided. It's divided into the red and the blue, and he wants to be as blue as he possibly can in hopes of getting elevated to the national stage.
Is it too early to start horse racing to some degree over the potential? You already mentioned the borough president wanting to be the mayor. Is it too early to start looking at that? I mean, I think I forgot where I saw it, that the borough president and Scott Stringer were listed as maybe the top two candidates. I got to say, for Ruben Diaz Jr., that is pretty cool to be listed as one as one of the leading, if not the leading candidate, that says a lot, especially with others who are whispering in the wind.
Right. There's definitely a lot of whispers in terms of who would likely want to run. I mean, Jumaane Williams is also another possible contender over in Brooklyn, and so
Right.
and then you also have
Eric Adams.
Eric Adams, who's also expressed interest. Although now I think Tish James is no longer in the running, but Melissa Mark Viverito, who's gunning for a public advocate seat, may very well start jumping into the mayoral fray.
There's so many little angles here to analyze. You mentioned the race for public advocate. How do you sort that out? There are qualified, I looked at the list of 20 that's been publicized. There are people that I could see, certainly Melissa Mark Viverito, Michael Blake from the Bronx is one of them. How do you sort out how that's going to play? Because there's no runoffs here. It's going to be, and you got like a month and a half to campaign. This is a kamikaze sort of campaign.
Absolutely, and I think at this rate, I would put it'll likely very well come down between Melissa Mark Viverito and maybe Blake. He did pick up a few interesting endorsements today. And so, I think it'll come down to charisma, who's actually...
Charisma. Do you think...
Everyone there has...
Do you think her record in the city as Speaker of the City Council helps or hurts her?
I think it helps her.
It helps her.
I think it absolutely does. I mean, at the time...
Because people can see her as a citywide
Correct.
leader.
She has exposure on that front, as opposed to someone like Assemblyman Michael Blake, who's a little bit micro, and which is also ironic too. He's a national figure as well, but
Vice President of the DNC.
Correct, but he's not a New York City local in the same vein as Melissa Mark Viverito.
What changes? We only got about a minute, but in the neighborhood in Norwood, you are obviously on top of a lot of what goes on there. What are we seeing? Development.
Development
new
is
restaurants. I think I read about a couple of new things coming.
Development is definitely a huge issue. It's become an actual issue, mainly because some of the new buildings are not rising to the level that a lot of people expected them to be.
In terms of?
In terms of just their own quality, and it just goes
Really,
back.
you think that we're building new buildings and they're not?
They're shoddy.
Really? This to me, this is a news, so I'm going to write this down. Do you have one in particular?
Yeah, we're actually working on a story involving the Stag Group. It's a follow-up story that we've done before, where they built a building back in 2016, opened it in 2016.
Where is that?
On Webster Avenue.
I was going to say Webster.
And that was part of the rezoning of
Right.
Webster Avenue. And the building is kind of falling into pieces.
Wow.
And it's essentially not in line with what a lot of people thought. Like, they visualized some
So
really...
who steps in?
Well, that's what we're trying to find out.
That's what. Check out the Norwood News for more. David Cruz, Happy New Year. Always tremendous as a personal friend and as a colleague. You just do a tremendous job. Happy New Year to the paper, to everybody, and we'll see you around town. That's all. That is all. We will say goodnight to you, and we will see you on Bronx Talk Monday night. We're going to talk about policing in the city of New York, and on we go. Happy New Year. All the best. Good night.